President Trump technically controls the Department of Justice, but when it comes to the Inspector General, he seems to restrict his oversight to Twitter. Today, the president tweeted this. What is taking so long with the Inspector General's report on crooked Hillary and slippery James Comey? Numerous delays. Hope report is not being changed and made weaker. There are so many horrible things to tell. The public has a right to know. Transparency. Which raises the question, where exactly is that report? Why haven't we seen it? What could be in it? Byron New York follows all of this for the Washington Examiner, and he joins us tonight. Byron, what do we know about this report?
Well, I'm afraid the president's going to have to wait a little longer. It appears that it's going to be delayed again. The Senate Judiciary Committee had scheduled a hearing for today where they were supposed to talk about it. Well, that got delayed until next Monday, the 11th. Now I'm hearing it might be delayed beyond that. The reasons, feet are being dragged somewhere in this process. There is a hang-up with classified information, and perhaps the most intriguing in the last at least month or 6 weeks, the Inspector General has gotten new information and actually interviewed new people. Don't know exactly what that's about, but it shows an investigation that's been going on.
What do we know about the content so far?
All right, it's going to be probably close to 500 pages, and you can expect a lot of discussion on several topics. Expect a lot of discussion about that Loretta Lynch, Bill Clinton meeting on the tarmac in Arizona. He has looked in, the Inspector General has looked into that a lot. Expect a lot of discussion on James Comey's decision to draft an exoneration memo for Hillary Clinton long before she'd interviewed Hillary Clinton, or at least a dozen other important witnesses. Expect a lot of discussion on whether Comey was trying to affect the outcome of the election on October 28th before the election day.
Yes.
In which he reopened the investigation. The Democrats specifically wanted the Inspector General to look into that. Look into discussion about when Andrew McCabe first learned that there were Hillary Clinton emails on Anthony Weiner's laptop. Remember that? That was the reason that Comey reopened the investigation, but what we found out was that McCabe knew about it much earlier in October. Did he drag his feet? If so, why was that? Just a couple of more things. Look for discussion of Comey's long statement on July 5th in 2016 saying that Hillary Clinton would not be charged. That was not the way these decisions are usually announced, so there's going to be an investigation of that. Look into why Loretta Lynch did not appoint a special counsel to look into this, and why Andrew McCabe took so long to recuse himself. Remember, his wife had gotten a huge Clinton-related contribution. Last thing, the thing we've heard the most about, which is McCabe versus Comey on this leaking thing. McCabe says, well, you told me it was okay to leak, and Comey said, well, no, I didn't. We may not get a whole lot more on that simply because we've already gotten a lot through the Office of Professional Responsibility.
So the other thing that people are waiting for is some resolution to the McCabe question. So apparently we have read that he committed perjury or lied to federal agents in the course of an investigation into himself. That would be for civilians a felony. Is that a felony in his case? Will he be charged?
Well, we don't know. There has been a criminal referral to the Justice Department to look into this. And by the way, it has now been reported McCabe was invited to testify at this hearing, Judiciary Committee hearing, whenever it is, and he has asked for immunity in exchange for his testimony. If he doesn't get it, he would have to take the Fifth Amendment. So unlikely to see him say anything to them, but clearly he is concerned about criminal exposure from whatever is in this report.
500 pages.
It's a long read.
I can't wait. Byron New York, I think one of the most credible sources of information on this. Thank you.
Thank you.
My next guest is part of the president's inner circle. Brad Parscale was often cited as one of the masterminds behind President Trump's victory, serving as the campaign's digital director the last go-around. Now he is taking the helm as President Trump's campaign manager for 2020, and he joins me now with an exclusive announcement that we will get to in just a minute. Brad, good to see you. Thanks for being here tonight. You know, you listened to Trace's reporting there. How difficult does that kind of stuff make your job in terms of the tweets, the Jeff Sessions issue?
No, I mean, I don't think that makes my job any more difficult. Look, I had a relationship with Jeff Sessions over the campaign. As you know, I was one of the very first people on the campaign, was there since February of 2015. You know, it's a disappointment for myself as well. You know, he knows as much as I do that there was no collusion. He was there. He was around. It wasn't like he was in there making large decisions, but he was watching. And so it's a disappointment. You know, I 100% think that President Trump would have known that he was going to recuse himself. He would have chosen someone else, someone that could have made sure that we could move on from this.
Do you think he should resign?
No, I don't think it's about that. I think we have to finish the job at hand now. I think we need to get past this as a country. I think when the final reports come out and we see there's no collusion with Russia, that we ran a legitimate campaign, the president is a legitimate, president of the United States, and all these things finally come to conclusion because of all the political part behind of it, then the president will make a decision he wants to, and I have complete faith that he'll make a great decision that's best for this country.
I always find it interesting talking to you because you ran the whole digital side of the campaign, the advertising in these remote places where you hadn't seen voters turn out the way they did during the Trump campaign. So I know it's especially frustrating for you to hear that, the Russians sort of somehow managed to throw the campaign to President Trump. And in terms of what they were doing, right? Didn't you intersect at some point if they were, putting all these ads out on Twitter and Facebook and you're doing the same thing?
It's like saying a light rainstorm in one part of the city flooded the entire city. It just doesn't happen. What they did was a couple of raindrops inside of a waterfall of things that were occurring from legitimate sources and paid campaigns. I continue to see this as a political witch hunt. The president is 100% right with all that. And regardless of what some people maybe have done 10 years ago, it doesn't matter. The campaign was run every day as a legitimate campaign.
So I thought it was very interesting. Ben Rhodes just wrote a book, and in the book he says that President Obama said to him that when he was asked to go to Michigan to campaign in October, that he knew something was up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the final answer was when she canceled her firework display. But yeah, I think they all started scrambling at the end. I think we just had better data. I mean, they just hadn't run an operation that was sophisticated for that time period of what we know now. I mean, the kind of things the Republican National Committee can tell us now, the way we can see the future of how voting scores are going to happen, we were able to make really smart decisions, and we did that.
So there's a couple areas that people say are potential vulnerabilities for the president. Suburban voters, suburban women in particular, outside of some of the nation's big cities, who ended up voting for President Trump, and whether or not they're going to do that this time around. Blue-collar voters, the forgotten men and women of America that the president talks so much about. You say that the data so far looks really good. What about those groups? How are you going to get them to turn out?
Well, I think there's a couple things here. You got two parts in what you just said. First is the data's never looked better for the president. I don't say that. Articles are written that I say that just to make him happy. It's just not true. I mean, we've run the largest data operation survey work in the country, and we see that America is starting to see that their personal economies are getting better, national security is getting better, the things that are around there are happening. And I think they're starting to see these accomplishments. As much as the media doesn't want, outside of a couple stations and a couple people, how much they don't want to talk about the accomplishments, they're starting to get through. And that's why today, one of the things I'm introducing today is promiseskept.com. And because that site has every accomplishment almost that Trump has done. There might be a few missing. We're going to continue to add them. There's so many accomplishments. Almost every 24 to 36 hours, there's another one since he's become president. In 500 days, he's accomplished so much. He's turbocharged the economy. He's crushed ISIS. He's killed all these, regulations that were killing jobs. I mean, he just continues to do these things. But on their site, those are the top things that people know about, but all these little things, hundreds of them, people can go through and see. The media doesn't talk about those things. And I think when suburban people see that and they see this personal economy, that improvement, that they can put their kid in ballerina class, they can buy a new car, they can do these things, it's going to have a significant impact.
Yeah, and I think people do care, first and foremost, about how they are doing, and not as much about some of these issues that we hear a lot about. But again, back to the message, does it frustrate you as the person who's in charge of the message going forward when it gets mucked up with, all of this stuff about Jeff Sessions? Because there are, people in some of these suburban areas who are watching all that and they're kind of wondering whether or not the wheels are coming off.
I think one of the most interesting things is, before this, I was not very political. I didn't work in politics. I worked in corporate America. And coming into Washington, D.C., you really learn what a bubble is. And I think that people see so much different view here than the American. When Americans coming home in suburban Philadelphia, they're saying, how am I going to, pay my car payment? How am I get my kid to soccer camp tonight? The noise level is a lot less, and what they really feel and what they go vote for is the things that really affect them. And the DC and the media can spin up all these stories they want, but what's funny about it, the more they do it, the more Trump continues to rise.
All right, so let me ask you this before I let you go. I know you've been talking a lot yourself about Apple and news, and Apple picking out what news is right for you based on the other things that you're interested in, which which tells me that that's one area that you are concerned about in terms of messaging.
Well, I will tell you that I've been very frustrated that a small section of people in Northern California, probably one of the most liberal portions of America, is somehow trying to dictate what the rest of America can consume, who can be the voice. And it really worries me. It worries me that possibly 3 to 4 executives have enough control to control exactly what you read, what you listen to, what you see. And I think that can have a biased opinion on people. And I think that what we need to do is have an open area, and I think of freedom that you can consume all types of content and make the decision yourself. I believe that most people in America, if they see both sides, will make the right choice.
Yeah. I think some people really need to be so aware of the messages that are being sent to you through your phone and everywhere else. You just want to understand that a lot of them are being sent to you intentionally. Before I let you go, I talked about Make America Great Again. Is promises kept the slogan for 2020?
I mean, no. I mean, Mr. Trump has continued to talk about keep it great, keep America great. But, promises kept right now is one of the kind of sub-slogans. And what that means is he made promises and he's keeping them. And what you can do is log on this website, promiseskept.com, and you can see that each and every promise he's made, which is hundreds of them. I mean, one nearly every 36 hours he's trying to keep. More promises kept than probably any president in the history of this country.
You think Dennis Rodman's a good person to help represent America in the North Korea summit?
Yeah, he was a good rebounder for the Bulls. That's all I know.
You could be a good rebounder for the Bulls. You're talking. Brad, thank you. Good to see you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for being here tonight.